mãe.
Only had Leon.
Come on, Paul. Oh, Miss Amanda. Hello, mãe. Malana mai ka ume
Puna me hino, hele mai kona me ko ala me hamakua e ka hele o waipio he pona o mahi he uka o ai mea he aba ka wai hai he kupe no ka waa o poli ahu he pala mana awa ke a i luna Pa'akua hivi kia li'i ka wa'a, o ia i ka hana nā kue.
Mahalo. Calling in all of the moku, all of the districts. Welcome. We're definitely happy to have gotten a call from Aunty Momi. Sure. Present alongside you, Aunty Momi, anything. Anything. We show up. We show up. But I'm happy to be one of 3 of your peeps today to bring forward and really speak on traditional narratives, mo'olelo in particular, ka'au, hakumele, composition. This is part of kind of our weaving together of Aunty Momi, Ana, and I for you all today. So welcome. Thanks for being here.
Okay. So I'm going to start and be really academic. Sorry. Because I am. I'm an academic. But I'm from Oahu originally, and I'm an anthropologist, cultural, and my whole area of expertise or interest has to do with people's oral traditions. And so I lived here in Waimea. I was actually the group that started Parker School. My former husband and I, and trying to see if Jan's here, Jan Whitehead's husband and then husband, and we all started the original Redwater Cafe, and that's when Sons of Hawaii and C&K and Olomana and all those guys played music there. So, that it kind of went with what they were talking about before. So. And go ahead and sit, you guys. I feel bad. But what I wanted to talk about, because I keep hearing this, the wonderful myths of Hawaii and blah, 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 blah. And what I really, and we were just chatting about this a little bit before, what I really want to bring home here is that the whole concept of myth or whatever does not mean it's not true. It's oftentimes they're metaphors. And there's an area of study that's called geomythology. And basically you look through how indigenous people talk about their own surroundings and how things got formed and things like that. And some of them may sound quite fantastical, but they're really rooted in the knowledge of what is around us and how we all came to be. So just to give you an example from here, when you look at the stories of Pele coming from Kahiki, and she's got her o and she's looking for a place to put her fires. She starts up on Kauai, she digs, she makes a big puka and the water comes in. And so she works her way all down the island. You can still see the landscapes where she dug. She finally gets to Halima'umau and it sticks and she's able to keep her fires there. That is exactly the way the Hawaiian chain was formed, right? We're all on this conveyor belt, starting from Kauai and moving down. So there's no contradiction really there. And so between what I wanted to point out was when we use the term mo'olelo, sometimes it kind of crosses over where a lot of Western thinkers kind of go, whoa, wait a minute. I mean, we can talk about, okay, I'm out in my canoe and the canoe hoolies, I'm in the water, and along comes a shark. I grab its dorsal fin and it takes me into shore. Okay, a lot of people going, oh, right. But what we go is, oh, Aumakua, okay. You know, and so it all kind of is a shift in perspective, basically. So what, we'll kind of keep this here. What we are going to do today is we're going to give some examples of mo'olelo from here, ancient, and show you basically how you can understand your surroundings. Some of you may know of an area called Mahiki, and Mahiki is basically over in this region here, so it's over way by Waipio, and it's actually where many of us live on the wet side, or the green side, or the emerald side. I've heard it called in some circles. But basically, there were two major roads that kind of went along. This is Waipio, by the way, Waipio Valley coming down here. And one of them went right into the valley, and the other ones went down to Kukui Haile. And that's, you know, so you have sort of these two trails. And one of them was known as the Old Mahiki Road. And Rick and I have been talking about this because trying to figure out where exactly are the perimeters of this area. And because it's, you know, it's very famous. It comes up, the song Holy Waimea talks about it. All sorts of mo'olelo talk about it, and the mele and ole do as well. So one of the ways that we can kind of get a feel for what was going on there are the stories of Hi'iaka Poliopele, and there's a huge epic volume. And just to talk about some of the problems with taking mo'olelo and trying to put it into a contemporary form. One of the problems is going from the oral to the written. Right away you're missing stuff. And one of the really great ways that some of the subtleties are shown or sort of open themselves is through music. And in a lot of times when you're sitting there listening to Hawaiian music and suddenly everybody's cracking up, and you're going, how come? You know, it was just the lift of an eyebrow, you know, when the guy was talking about the ship going down the ocean, and really he's talking about a woman's hips when she's walking down the street, you know, and so there's all kinds of counter or double meanings and stuff that, you know, come through in these stories. So when you take the huge volume, and as Naka brought out last time, there's a lot of richness in those original old newspapers, and because they would put the mo'olelo in the newspapers, and they would go on forever. The ha'i mo'olelo, the storyteller, would go on for days. So you can imagine when you take that story, say of Hi'iaka, just to do a synopsis real quickly, she gets asked by her sister to go up to Kauai and to get Lohiau and bring him back. And when you bring him back, I will have him, says Pele, and then I will share him with you. And so real different from the Grimm's fairy tales and stuff where you're waiting for the prince to come. They go get the prince, bring him over here. And then we go share him. Yeah, I like that. So as it unfolds, sort of as she goes through, and again, if you look at Beckwith, and you know she's the one I quote actually up in the front here. She talks about, when she tells the epic story of Hi'iaka going to get Lohiau, it's about 6 pages in her book. Whereas it was forever. It's a huge, huge volume that Puakea and Novelmeyer did the translation of, and it goes on and on. As she comes to each district, what Beckwith and people like that seem to take out is that she's giving all kinds of environmental knowledge and what to watch out for. And so you might encounter a mo'o, and a mo'o is kind of a water spirit. Sometimes it's talked about as being part lizard, and there are people today who still see them and still care for them. Very important to remember that every time we talk about this, it's not like stuff in the past. So, for example, the old Mahiki robe, lots of night marchers have been seen on the mud lane, so to speak. So, how do we protect our houses from night marchers, or how do we encircle it? Tea leaf. So you can go, you can walk up and you go, oh, these, you'll see tea leaves planted on each corner of the house, and that's to protect. So those kinds of things are still going on. So we might say, oh yeah, that's in the past. No, we don't think that way anymore. No, we always do. We still have that going. So when Hi'iaka is coming through, and she comes along the Hamakua coast, she chants as she gets to each area. And I started the Heritage Center for UH down in what was then called Enher, and kept trying to do research on Honoka'a. And I'm going, I don't see Honoka'a in the old, Olelo Noiao and Mo'olelo, and I just don't see it. And in consulting with some folks at Hawaiian Studies at UH, we all kind of agree that it's a later name that came in with, it does definitely link to the coast, but definitely comes in, at a later time. And one of the reasons I knew it is because Hi'iaka comes right through, and there's no Honoka'a that she chants about. So, she goes right on to Kapulena and then Kukui Haile and then up. Now when she gets up here, she encounters, and it depends on which version you read about. I kind of like the Mo'olau one, but there's Mahiki and Mo'olau. Mo'olau is this lizard woman and water spirit, whatever you want to say. And of course this is a really wet area, and so she's there and she encounters Hi'iaka, and they get into this sort of scuffle. And what happens is she being the mo'o, starts using all of her kinolau, all of her body parts to try to ensnare. And one of them being the ki pu'upu, the rain that of Waimea, one of the many rains. There are about 9 different rains that I've come across. And so that's one of the things. She pelts her with the rain, and you're talking about a fire person. Hi'iaka comes from that line, and then the water. So you're talking about the elements. Even in Hawaii, I'm trying to see if I have a whole island here picture, but there's a division on this island of the lands that belong to Pele and the lands that belong to Kamapua'a, who is associated with the wetter sides. And it's not the way we look at it now, but it comes right through the Wailua River, the one as you're coming into Hilo, the airplane bridge, whatever, right there. And also the middle of Waikoloa. And you could say, but Waikoloa is, we think of Waikoloa as being the town now. Waikoloa is huge. It is huge. And it comes all the way over here and actually snakes up right into Church Row. There's a little iki part of it that comes up there. So the other division comes right through the middle of Waikoloa. And what's interesting is years ago I was looking, when you buy a house here, you get the map, you get the rating of where you are as far as insurance goes, as far as are you going to get hit by lava or not? It's kind of a fun map to look at. It exactly matches the line you know, where the cutoff is between Pele and Kamapuaa. So it's really kind of cool there. So at any rate, when Hi'iaka comes through there, and this is on her quest going north, not when she's coming back, because that's a whole other segment, they get into this battle. But what happens is Mo'olau lets go of her hordes, which are called the Mahiki, and hence the name of the area. Mahiki means to leap. And what it refers to, I think, is that this whole area was so boggy. Reverend Lorenzo Lyons talks about going down to Waipio in the old days and literally up to his knees in mud, trying to trudge through there. So what do? You throw down hapu'u logs. And the hapu'u logs, the tree ferns, you have those all along, and then you leap from one log to the other to get to. So it's a place of leaping, you know. So it really comes in with the whole Hi'iaka story. There's no, you know, sort of contradiction or anything. And actually, I'm gonna head over. Were you gonna do Queen Emma? Okay. So before she starts with Queen Emma, real quickly, because I have just become enamored with Queen Emma. When you read her stories, for one thing, she was an amazing horsewoman. And in 1882, which is what Ku'ulei is going to talk about, she goes up to Mauna Kea. And again, one of the reasons I think this is extremely important to talk about today, this whole perspective thing, is what keeps on coming up is people's concepts of what is sacred. The Mauna is sacred, and other people going, oh, since when? You know? Well, look back at, you know, why does Queen Emma go up there?
Right.
She goes up there to take a kapu kai in Lake Waiau. She goes up there to reconnect with her ancestors because she is from the John Young family, and more importantly, her mother's line, of course, is Ka'oana Eha. And that whole family, you know, you have the two strains. You've got one of the families owning all of Waikoloa. That's the Davis family from Isaac Davis. I have not seen Chief of War, but I know that John Young's did it, I've heard. And then the whole Lalamilo area was the Young family. And the Davis family, it becomes important because those families were really interconnected. And when Isaac Davis was poisoned, all the children were raised then by John Young. So very, very close tie. So close that if you look at Makahikilua, which is the area where, here I'm lost here. Okay, so Makahikilua is right here. That is where Queen's Hospital is. Queen's Hospital is named for what queen? Queen Emma. Okay, really appropriate for her to be there because the land belonged to Lucy Peabody. Lucy Peabody, Lucy Davis Peabody. She was her lady-in-waiting. She was her maid of honor. So here's the land that belonged to the Davises and the hospital that was originated through the Young line. So again, this whole cyclical thing is another thing that people have trouble understanding. In other words, there is a reason Queen's Hospital is there. I don't think they know it. But I'm just saying, you know, from many of our perspectives, that's how come. But I really want to make sure that we get through everybody else because this is the exciting part. Because again, you got to take it back to the oral and to have this next generation of storytellers is so important. And you know, both Ku'ulei and Anabi have mentored younger people, and you know, just the inspiration of these two, and that's why I asked them to please come. I have one more Anabi story. she gave me a CD of hers, which is just wonderful. What's it, about 3 years now? Yeah. And I have this ritual. She doesn't know about it, but when I do my Costco run or whatever, and I'm going, I always try to come back the upper road. And I stick in that CD as I'm coming to Waimea because she sings me home.
So that's a good segue. We'll switcheroo.
Aloha no kako. Aloha no o Kennedy o mana environment. Anabi, like Aunty Momi mentioned, and mahalo for asking us to be here. And just kind of when you look at mo'olelo and the things that Auntie is sharing, one of the things that she asked me to talk about was composition, music composition and composing music, and what are the things that inspire me to write. And music and writing music and singing and those kinds of things are mo'olelo. They're ways of documenting things, current things, ancient things, right? And so I'm just kind of gonna jump right in and share with you. How many of you are familiar with the mo'olelo of Ohia and Lehua? Yeah, so tell me a little bit about Ohia and Lehua. Just what you know off the top of your head. Go for it. Yeah, just
It's a
popcorn.
typical Pele story of jealousy and separating
Okay.
lovers.
Absolutely. Typical Pele story. She's jealous. She doesn't want the man to be with the Ohine and all the things. What else? What's that? Yes, when you pick the Lehua blossom, it rains and because what?
It's a kino of Pele.
Okay. Yeah, her crying. All the. Okay. What else?
Separating.
Yeah. Yes, you. Go for it.
Pele turned Ohia into a Kokichi.
Yeah, into the tree. Okay, so I'm gonna kind of segue with that mo'olelo, of Ohia and Lehua. So we know from the mo'olelo that you had these two kanaka who were Ohia and Lehua, right? They were in love. Pele was super jealous. She turned him into the tree. Lehua became the flower. When you pick the Lehua blossom, so the story says, right? Separating her from her lover is when the rain comes, right? It was about probably back in 2010, 2011, probably around 2010. I had these two friends, both of my friends, Kane and Wahine, were married at the time. They were in relationships. And for whatever reason, they, for a time, left their spouses and got together. I was the only one that knew about that whole situation. And it was what it was, it for me, as the one that knew of the situation, it was beautiful. It was such a beautiful love. They were so in love with each other. And just the way they interacted with each other, and the way they treated each other was lovely. It was just beautiful. Morally, probably not the best situation, I think they probably didn't belong doing that behind their partners' backs and whatever. But it was a beautiful thing to see that kind of love. Eventually, what happened was they left each other and went back to their spouses. Both spouses till this day have no idea that rendezvous ever happened. When all of that was going on, I was in the Lalamilo area when Kanokaina was down in the Lalamilo area. And I was picking my mom up from work that day. And when I looked up to Pu'uhoku'ula, yeah, we know where Pu'uhoku'ula is, and Pu'uoaka is the next one. The one next to it, on Pu'uo, the the western flank of Pu'u'oa'oaka, there is an ohia tree. And just so happened that day that ohia tree was blooming. There was flowers, and I could actually see that it was blooming from Lalamilo, where I was sitting. And immediately I thought of the story of Ohia and Lehua and my two friends. And Hoku'ula, when I looked up at Hoku'ula, I said, oh, that reminds me of him. And Oa'oaka kind of is when you look at it from down here, the top of Oa'oaka is flat. It's kind of a flat looking, and it reminded me of her. And so I wrote a song about it, commemorating their aloha for one another. The thing about when you compose, there are certain words, like Aunty Momi said, the ship moving on the ocean, right? Really, actually, a lot of times in the mele are talking about the woman's hips swaying and those kinds of things. This mele that I wrote is the song is called Na Pu'u. There's a lot of that going on in there. And if you don't know, you know, a lot of that kind of, you know, because it was important to document those things. It was important for me to commemorate that between the two of them, you know. So perhaps you might hear of waters that are flowing, right? The flowing water. And so metaphorically speaking, we're not necessarily talking about water that is flowing in the stream. Like that. But when you know, and I'm not by any means an expert at that kind of composition, using kauna, right? Or metaphors to hakumele, to write. But when you understand the way our kupuna engaged with the environment, yeah, and the way they saw the natural environment, it's a little bit easier to write that way, you know. And some people, and if the eye is not trained or the ear is not trained to know how to decipher what the composer is saying, then it's just flowing water in a stream. You know what I mean? And that's fine too. Yeah. But sometimes people will look at it and go, oh yeah, that's that. I haven't sung this melody in forever. And so I'm gonna try and do my best to do this. e kawai ona ona. Uluia e kawai ona ona.
Uluhi kaha ana?
Huh?
Uluhi kaha?
Yeah, sure. Okay, so really quickly, just kind of the loose translation of the song. Ikeia o hoku'ula. Hoku'ula is held in sight in the vision. Ikeia o hoku'ula. There also is the exquisite redness of the lehua blossom. He hali'a mauno a ke aloha. It brings back fond memories of love. In this case, the love of my two friends. Hui kala'i oa oaka. Oa oaka stands there in the calm. Hui kala'i oa oaka. A kaku'u ole ke aloha. Love that is never ending, perhaps. A kaku'u ole ke aloha. Oha oha kapili I kapu wai. There is a love there in the heart. Oha oha pili kapu'u wai. Vaialoha hanu'unu'u. So there is a love that exists in the heart. Hanu'unu'u can be translated a few different ways. Hanu'unu'u actually means to spurt. So vaialoha, the waters of love, the spurting waters of love. Yes. Yeah, so the waters, spreading waters. Let me see. Eku'upili, my beloved, of the nighttime. Yeah. We used to work the overnight shift sometimes, and that's when they would get together. There is a calmness, or there's a peace, or a la'i, yeah, in the heart.
Tawai o nauna.
Oh, that's that puana. So the puana, the song is, the mele is told, I just sang it and I forget the words. I'm a little nervous, but you know. So puana ke mele o nā pu'u, the song is told, or mele is written for the two, for nā pu'u. Puana ke mele o nā pu'u, hoku'ula, oa oaka. Ka'ohi'a lehua, the exquisite lehua, ohi'a lehua. The lehua blossom that is made damp. Pulu'ia e kawai o nauna. Yeah, so that is moistened by love, basically. That's the translation of the song. Yeah, and so we'll, as far as mo'olelo, we're gonna segue again. Sister will take it from here, and yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna definitely speak on Queen Emma, Kaleleo Naleni, but I'm gonna maybe take a little bit from Aunty Momi's beautiful rendering of some place names. And today we get technology. We get a telephone. So somebody who have their telephone, handy dandy telephone. Thank you, Miss Amanda. Can you go to either Vehe Vehe or Vehe Vehe Viki Viki, one of those online, and I just want to bring a little bit. So Amanda, can you look for the word koi koi? Somebody else, sweetie? Can you look, koi koi, K-O-E, K-O-E. And then can you look for K-O-O-K-Na-E, K-O-O-K-Na-E, and then Miss Julia. Just one word, we'll do this quick activity. Can you look up Waikuloa for me? You got it, Amanda? Hang on, you got it though. We'll go wait for, to see if, Here is my thing about place names. Inoa Aina, the preservation of them, and then there's so much, right? What is the Puana Pololei? We hear that all the time. What is the correct pronunciation of this place, that place? I'm not going to be one to stand here and say, this is wrong and that is right. I'm going to stand on the shoulders of my kupuna and say, this is how I heard it. This is how I heard them say it. My dad does not say maikai, my dad says mekei. So I will say what I have heard my entire life from my elders, my kupuna, from successive generations. So that's what I will stand on. Not to say one is right and the other is wrong. Sweetheart, you got the koe koe. Okay, great. And you got waikoloa. Here is just an example perhaps of, and then I'm going to say you make up your mind. You choose, knowing what these words mean, what you're going to say and how you're going to say them. Because in this region that Aunty Momi is talking about, Mahiki, with the mo'o, the battle, epic battle of Mahiki and Hiaka, Wahine o Ma'o and Pa'uo Pala'a, it talks about a place with the name that I hear a lot pronounced Waikoikoi. Have we heard that name? So maybe we're going to start with Miss Amanda. Can you read for us, read loud so our friends can hear. What does koi koi mean?
Koi koi, reduplication, to strum, and then ukulele.
Okay, huli. Maybe can you stand up, Auntie?
I'm sorry.
Auntie Betty, can you hear?
Koi koi, reduplication, to strum as an ukulele.
Okay, koi koi. Strum as an ukulele. Koe koe. Sweetie, I cannot see your sorry, I want to see. Jen,
Yes.
thank you. Jen, can you tell us what koe koe means?
Yes, it's cool, damp, chilled from wet and cold.
Cool, damp, wet, as cold. Jimomi recounted a portion of Hiaka's travels through there. Or who were you saying?
Mo'olau in that
But
case.
somebody was
Mahiki.
knee deep.
Lorenzo Lyons.
Lorenzo Lyons' journal, an actual account. Somebody who went and walked that place. Says, I sink to my knees. Wet, boggy, chilly, damp. Strum of an ukulele. Wet, damp, chilly. You guys get the idea? So let that, perhaps, be a guiding factor for you to say, wai koe koe, wai koe koe. We're going to just do one more quick one, Miss Julia. Waikoloa.
Waikoloa, wild duck water. One common understanding is that Waikoloa is a combination of vai, water, and koloa, duck, describing the ponds and shallow waters where the Hawaiian duck was abundant.
Anything else?
Water carried or far or pulling far. Another translation is vai koloa, water pulling far. This may refer to the long Waikoloa stream which flows from the mountains down to the Kohala coast.
Okay.
Or a cold wind. Waikoloa can also refer to a cold northwest wind, particularly when associated with Mount Ka'ala on Oahu. And there's a deep spiritual significance. With that one? The name is sometimes associated with the spirit or deity Akua of the wind, Makani.
And you pulled that up on Vehe Vehe.
So,
Where you pulled that up?
AI overview.
Oh, AI! You see, we're talking about technology nowadays. So this AI would pull all of these ike from different halau. So here's the thing that I want to focus in on. Julia read a cold wind. A cold wind. Wind carried far. Wind, there was kind of
water pulling far.
water pulling. Thanks, Auntie Jan. Jan. Water pulling far. Cold wind.
And then ducks.
And then ducks. that I'm not too sure about. I won't comment about the ducks because I don't know, and I don't necessarily know about the pools in that area. There is one stream that's going to actually bring us from Mauna Kea all the way down, which is Auwaiakeakua. If we pass that Waikoloa intersection, it is that next bridge. Boom, that's what's going underneath, Auwaiakeakua. Here's the thing about Mo'olelo, Ka'au, place names. They inform us. They inform us. Waikoloa is a goddess who has traveled here from Tahiti. She is a goddess. We know her genealogy. If any of you live in the Waikoloa vicinity, or even us who might frequent it or visit or drive by, Waikoloa is a windy place.
Yeah.
It's a no-brainer. She is a wind goddess who has traveled here from Tahiti. She is the sister of Kanakanaka, auntie of Lalamilo. The genealogy today tucked in place names are people, gods, goddesses. The more we can understand our place names and look deeper, the more we will be informed. Are we not a people who wish to be informed? I would think so. So lean in on your place names. Lean in on pronunciation. Also lean in on Leo Kupuna. And I see Cousin Lisa sitting here. And I brought my handy dandy speaker. Woo! Is that a flow of emotion? Because I honor the genealogy I come from, and a particular grandma who lived right outside the gate of Kanuakaina, Grandma Kalani Phillips. Privileged to be a part of her genealogy. Also the genealogy of Uncle Larry Kimura. Uncle Larry's mother's side comes from the Maka'ai of Pu'uanahulu. So with that, Uncle Larry gifts me recordings of Grandma. And I know as a little child, I would sit in that kitchen and Grandma Kalani was blind. She couldn't see. But my grandfather and my sister and I would be brought to Waimea because Grandpa would go kipa ohana. He would go visit his relatives. And my sister and I went along. So when Uncle Larry first gave me like this first recording of Grandma, I never thought that I would hear the leo of Grandma Kalani ever again. But now I have just a few recordings. So we're going to gift that to all of us. Looking at Grandma Kalani's recounting, and again to acknowledge Anabi and others in this room and others who aren't, that hail from the Lindsay Ohana lineage. Because that's what Grandma is going to talk about. Queen Emma's visit to Lake Waiau. So, I'm not too tech savvy, but I'm going to do my best. And pull up a file. Mind you, this is all Maka'olelo Hawaii. Grandma and Uncle Larry will speak only in Hawaiian, not to fret. Sit in that privilege of hearing a mana leo, a native speaker. And you will be able to, I'm sure, pick up words. You will hear place names. So I will say, attentively listen. And I need my glasses. Because I cannot see. I'm so sorry. Okay. I think this is it. I do have 3, but we shall see if this is the one I'm looking for. Okay, Grandma. Oh, no. Sorry. But maybe that's the one that wants to play. Yeah, B. We kind of talked about that. That's the second. Thank you for your patience as you all gotta look me. Trying to find this of Grandma. Okay, we're gonna go to actually the first one because I don't like wait, you guys have to wait long time, and we're gonna just take it right from what we had done of the hakumele. Grandma is gonna bring forward a song, and this is Lisa. That day I had come down to Waiaka to the family, and we had brought this one forward of Grandma. So you're gonna be able to hear her sing too.
Bây giờ ấy cái bên mình có cái này anh nó hôi không cái cổ này cái này nó cái nó cái nó cả mà có gọi là người mà cáo quay hay cái postmaster nó pa thì làm này nãy này học nãy cũng bị em học cũng mình no kam papa o ai kai idio kolani o ya kai no kuna papa asuntai kai idio kolani aka apa pakai anu nak kita mene kaman au ko mene hai na o ya Allah akan hoan kai ai nó cái cung máy con nó hoa hana con nó khỏi kinh là nó nè con nó khỏi hoa hana ôi nó con nó khỏi hana yam na pa ôi nó con luna nó đi ra haku ia nó con meli nó là nó con meli nó con khỏi popi ai ya con meli hana ya cái cô hana là nuôi ôi kia là nuôi ai biển nuôi kia là nuôi nó ai ra cái yêu là người này anh là cô yên anh kêu là anh là cô yên cái yêu là nước còn nó ôi yêu nước ở nó là cô yên cái ấy là cô thì nó hay cái nó là cô gì ạ nó là cô mẹ nó là cô khả năng là như thế đó con có cú lại vậy cô ấy hay có hả có cái ở này á hay có được phố cú pa thì ấy thì mình như vậy
Nania, isn't that beautiful? Grandma Kalani's Leo, her voice, Kani ukulele, So she's actually talking about a big hill. If we can imagine, we're driving out, we're gonna go up Waikiki, we're gonna make that turn. That big hill that's set right there to the right of when we turn to up, that's Nonohai. Here again is it Noho Noho Nohai? Is it Nonohai? Is it Noha Nohai? Could be any one of those. Talk to a Pocket Ranch cowboy. They'll tell you it's Nonohai. Nonohai Nui. And then come back to where West Hawaii Concrete is, that's Nonohai. So those two pools there. Grandma is talking about, did you guys hear a person's name? Somebody?
William.
Papa Akau, Papa William Akau, Papa Bill. So she's going to say that it is his grandfather that wrote this mele. Uncle Larry says, for what? What did they do? What is their hana? She said, hana ala nui. They were the road workers. They made the roads. They were the road crew. She said his kaikaina, so a younger brother, and Poki'i, younger generation of Papa. Papa's grandfather. Here's the thing, they lived there. Grandma is going to say they lived there Monday through Friday. And weekends would return home to Kwaihai. But he will compose this mele. Well, I want to just set some context. This is public record. Anybody can find this in state archives. You go look, Minister of Interior, there's going to be lots of communications of when the roads were being built. And there is some letters written, and they're gonna say, you know, I pay my man 75 cents a day to work, make road. But they want to get paid $1. You tell me if you think this is too much. If not, I will continue to pay them 75 cents a day to make the roads you and I drive on today. This is the thing. You have that kind of, so I'm going to go into the archives and we see these things. Thank you, Rick, too, right? We love to be in this research mode. But we see these things, and I would look at that and I would say, oh, hana nui. If I was a highway crewman, hana nui. And then I get 75 cents a day. Of course, this is, decades ago. But he composes a beautiful mele. Even if him and his crew, him and his younger brother and his poki'i, are getting paid 75 cents a day. He composes this beautiful mele. And we won't go through the translation of it, but he is saying, to look to Mauna Kea, nani vale. Beautiful. He's talking about all of the beautifulness of the work, of the things they do, the things they see, the place they're at, to build the ala nui for the people. Even in that kind of conditions, perhaps. Here is the Kuana Ike Hawaii, right, that we will. It's not as if we don't have any situational awareness of what the heck's happening. We absolutely do. But we can look to things and see the absolute beauty in it. Sure, gets so much things that we could maybe kalele and lean on the negative or the hard things that we gotta deal with. We are well aware of situations, but we do not ever lose sight of the beauty. I'm going to close with my daughter, my middle daughter, Nahe. Little does she know, is a fabulous poet. She read me something. Her dad's birthday was the other day, and so we were talking to Wayne. He lives up in Colorado, but she actually read me something that she wrote to the dad. She was talking about, when you coming home, Dad? You should move home. Not be in Colorado, just come home already. Okay, anyway. And it kind of went on from there, but this part, before I left home, I said, Naif, can you screenshot and send me what you wrote to Dad? And I had to pause, and I had to say, she's my poki'i. She's of my teachings. My family, the village, people seated here are the village who helped me raise my daughters. And that one standing up there too, Pomai. She is really not his second mama. But this is what my daughter writes about her Hawaii and the changes that we are in. Okay. Here we go. The words of Miss Nahinani. She is saying, this is again an address to her dad. Dad, I trust my eyes. Hawaii said the changes are here. The way the clouds move, the ocean moves, the migration patterns of animals that have changed, the lack of rain, the lack of snow, the change is already here. You just have to be home and open your eyes to them. When I was in the 8th grade, Waimea was still Waimea. Misty rain, cloudy, cold, but by my 9th grade year, the change was more noticeable. There wasn't our rainy days and clouds, and Waimea wasn't as cold. I know because I am home and I can see. Dad, I trust my eyes. Hawaii said, the changes are here. So, what do we do? How do we do? I think as part of our presentation today, we really want to emphasize kapoina ole. That any of us who call Hawaii home, do not forget. Host culture, this aina, this landscape, is a cultural landscape. Look into the place names, and they will inform you. Know your mo'olelo, your stories, your ka'au of your places, for it will inform you. You don't need to go, oh, Waikoloa is so windy. Yes, it's supposed to be. I guess with that, any closing thoughts, Auntie Anna?
Will they get to ask questions?
Oh,
And
Maunina.
I did have one little illustration. It may not be up here. There's a small pu'u called pu'upelu.
Right here.
Oh, way over there. Okay. So pelu means to snap. And what she says is that there was a famous chief, and this is during the battle between the people of Waimea, who, by the way, people of Waimea were always resilient. They were the last ones to give up the old ways, the old kapu system. And so, at any rate, this chief was fighting these Maui forces, and as they came, 8 in a row, snapped their back, and that's a lua move. That's one of the martial arts that was practiced, and so you basically you go behind the person and you snap them this way, you break their back. And so, at any rate, that is the reason for that name, according to Mary Lowe. And so, yeah, as Ku'ule was saying, you can't take the literal. You can look at, like, where Anna Ranch is, Kea Nui o Mano, or is it Kea Nui o Manu, which I've seen, which means the big white bird, or is it the big white shark, or is it Ke Anu I o Mano, the chill of the shark flesh, chicken skin. You know. So there's different, but like Ku'ule said, and I really appreciate it. You cannot say this is what it means. And when I lived down Kealakekua Bay, if I was to say, oh yeah, I live in Na Po'opo'o, all the fishermen would be laughing. It's Na Po'opo'o. There's a way of pronouncing. And I think isn't Pomai doing the research on the cowboy pronunciation? Is she here? Cannot see. Anyway, of different place names here, and I think that's really important too. Valid. Anyway, do you guys have questions?
Yeah. Aunty,
Yes, thank you.
question for you.
Sure.
I think you are very sensitive and tuned into nature here. And I wonder if you have, or if you think about in the future, the Ohiolekua and the disease that has come to destroy so many of them. If you've written anything, or maybe the other subtler representation of that.
Wow, that's a really good question. And no, I actually haven't. I haven't written
Yet.
yet. Yeah, and that's a good reminder, because
the thing about composing compositions, whether it's music, whether it's poetry, whether it's just writing, is it documents things, right? And it's a good reminder, right, to document what is happening now. Last week Sunday, was it a week ago? Yeah. Sunday, I was on Oahu, and part of a group of people, kind of a small group of people, 60 of us, that recited our what do you call, creation chant called the Kumulipo, over 2,000 lines long, and we performed it at Iolani Palace. One of the questions that we continued to get after, or even before we did it for the public, was, are we adding to that? Yeah? Are we documenting now the lineages of the people that come from those mentioned in the Kumulipo? Are we documenting that now? And so, mahalo for the reminder. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good one.
If we wanted to read more about Mo'olelo of Waimea specifically, can you guide us how we can find that?
Again, you have to be really careful what sources you use. There are people like Fornander, he was from Sweden, but he had the sense to hire Hawaiians to go out and record Mo'olelo, as opposed to other people who tried to take the Mo'olelo and fit it into a Western paradigm.
Exactly.
And so, for example, the Mo'olelo that was written by Kalakaua supposedly was really Daggett, who was taking what Kalakaua said, but then he would say, oh, so-and-so was the Apollo of Hawaii, or, you know, they're always trying to stick them into a Western construct. And again, the concept of, in particular, and this is something I've been working on, the power of women is greatly degraded in the retelling in the Western thing. And when the first missionaries come to Hawaii, they all say, the head woman of Waimea, blah, blah, blah. And I've been trying to research who that is. I'm pretty sure it's Queen Emma's grandmother, but it could be George Hueo Davis's wife. But all of those stories, I mean, literally get buried. And I do mean this literally, because here is Queen Emma's grandmother, and she is buried at, well, she was buried at Iolani Palace, and then they transferred about 21 graves up to Mauna Ala. And here's John Young, huge, beautiful grave. She's in there. There's no mention of her. And part of that is because when he died, she went back to the old ways, and the missionaries were not happy. So she went back. You know? And yeah, so she's literally been buried in history twice, through not being talked about and through her actual burial.
Auntie, can I? And then so also, when you look, if you try to research a lot of the time, a lot of our Waimea Mo'olelo aren't necessarily written places. And I think a lot of it has to do with what Auntie Momi mentioned just a little while ago, because our kupuna were very ku'e and were some of the last ones to, well, and convert to anuar, to writing and those kinds of things. You know, so a lot of the Mo'olelo were only transferred orally. Yeah.
Yep, I will ditto both of what the both ladies said. So just a caution, when cite your sources and whatnot, but also beware. For me, Hawaiian language newspapers is probably one of the closest things, if not the closest thing I can get to, because it was the Kanaka who submitted those articles. So you're not getting somebody else's viewpoint, right? We can watch Auntie eat her fish, and we could maybe be descriptive and say, oh, she closed her eyes and she's licking her fingers. Oh, that fish must be really ono. But let her tell her story. let her tell you how that fish tastes. You know what I'm saying? So we just really got to be aware, hyper aware perhaps, of who wrote certain books and what. I mean, and there are lots of great Hawaiian resource books out there. And yes, some of our Waimea mo'olelo are tucked within other mo'olelo. So you're gonna find Olopana and his wife Lu'ukia. That account coming out of Waipio, chief and chiefess of Waipio. But it's gonna talk about the chief Wai'auia of Waimea, tucked right into Olopana and Lu'ukia's. Or you look at Laie, or Hi'iaka's account, and Hi'iaka, Pa'uo Pala'a, and Wahine Oma'o are traveling through. You'll hear the plains of Waimea and the spear sliding games that were done on the plains of Waimea. But yeah, I would definitely say that look to the sources of those particular books, and even if it is like I'm thinking, oh my gosh, not John Papa I'i. Sorry, it might come somewhere in my brain, but I'll try and. But there is an original manuscript to one of the books that probably a lot of us have on our shelves, but it's not the original manuscript. So again, great caution in what we might cite as sources. Thanks, Uncle Clem. Yes, Miss Jess?
Maybe this is an answer, but what do you guys think about the kepamami, like the pu'u o umi?
Love it.
Yeah, so that's, I was gonna say,
Yep.
I read the pu'u o umi.
Yep.
I mean, it's online for free.
Kumupono
But
and
I didn't want to recommend it to him without your guys'.
Yeah, he is one of my teachers when I was.
But
Hapai
I think
with
that's a
Kamehameha?
good resource.
He's
Yeah.
good.
He is, he'll give you kind of a nice church records that he was able to pull in the archives. Interior of Minister, notes from certain journals, and then he'll give you the mo'olelo, the traditional accounts of a place. He'll give you boundary commission testimonies. So in his ethnographic studies, you'll have he'll give you maps. Yes, we sing the praises of Kepa and Onauna. Yes, thanks, Jess.
You say that name again?
Kepa, K-E-P-A, I'll go over the A, M-A-L-Y. But his website or his business is Kumupono and Associates. Kepa and Onauna. Onauna is his wife, who is the niece of Mary Kavena Pukui. So good, that lineage, that hula, that historical lineage right in Kepa, and his wife Onauna.
And also Marie McDonald.
Yeah.
She's the auntie. Yeah, it's, yeah, you're absolutely right. The Kepa's work is really good. Puake and Nogelmeyer too. The thing with Kauna and everything, you don't know. And I had a interesting talk with Pat Bacon, who's Mary Pukui's daughter, and a couple of different things came out. One thing was I asked her if Mary ever spoke to any of the pieces at Bishop Museum. I used to work at, she and I both worked at Bishop, and she said only the pieces from Ka'u. So to me too, that if a person is not from an area, it's really difficult. Place Names of Hawaii is, it's a great starter book. But again, it will give you that hill of the mackerel and not hill of breaking backs as the meaning of that area. So there's always like layers to go through, and we'll never know. We'll never know what it means. What I hate is when things get perpetuated. Myths, so-called, I mean myth in the Holly sense, or when people start talking about I'm going down to A Bay, or I'm going to Queen K Highway, or whatever. It's like if we don't keep using the names, and I mean, obviously the Queen Kahumanu was a later thing, but Anaiho Omalu, that's an important ancient name and meanings, as we know. So.
Question, do you know of the book called Olive Light? And
That on it, the
Hank Wesselman, a doctor, is I think the author?
I have some problems with that, but
I've been told I should read it. And
Yeah.
Stuff about my
Well,
man.
it's always good, you know. I'm not gonna judge
Okay.
somebody else.
Do you guys do this on a, more on an ongoing basis so that, you know, we can learn?
Ooh.
Because
Yeah,
your,
no,
your
I think
wealth
we need
of,
to start
your
a
wealth of
show.
knowledge is so,
Yeah.
Well,
At least you do.
this couple days, Mama and Kalani's wife is on her way back, and Pua and I have been doing
Yeah.
community classes for several decades now.
Yeah.
And that when she was in California, we were texting, and she's like, "Darling," and I said, "Darling, we're gonna do some community classes." So
Yeah.
we're talking about it, and we perhaps.
yeah, because
perhaps.
this was just a scratch.
Yeah.
And it's like, you know, like for all of us that, we grew up on Oahu, so, you know, we didn't get this. And as I was talking to the guys before, it's like, you know, my grandmother, and I love that you said, what you said about the pronunciation, because it seems like the Kaukos and the Okinas were added later. And it's like, a lot of the Hawaiian names, like your dad, like you're saying, it's like, that's how I grew up. And it's like, it bothers me, like my niece, who was teaching at Hilo, yeah, is, because she's putting the kahokos on the okina, and I'm telling her like, no, you can't do that, because that is not how, and I like that you said, don't say it like that, you know.
Yeah.
So I'm telling her, Grandma pronounced it this way, and that's how I learned it, and
Yeah.
she got it from her kupuna.
Yeah.
So can we just perpetuate it that way?
Yeah.
So my niece, my grandniece now, will not use our Hawaiian name because it's not, her mother is not pronouncing it the way that I told her how I learned it. So she's going by her English name. And I'm thinking, oh, you know, and she's at Kamehameha, and I'm like, hey, everybody uses their Hawaiian name. You gotta use your Hawaiian name so that you can, you know, share that way, and the history that goes with that. Yeah. So I wanna learn more from you guys, yeah.
You know, even if you don't learn the right name, the more you know, the more your surroundings come alive. And I used to do this thing with my two sons. We used to live way at the base of Manoa Valley. And when we would drive up, I would always talk about the mo'o at the back of, you know.
Yeah.
I'd always say, oh, she has missed. If you know the Chinese graveyard, and that's her tail that comes down.
Yeah.
And it's Pu'o Luahini, the hill of the old woman. And so, you know, every time we would go up there, I'd go, oh, look at the old lady today, you know, and they would all get into it and stuff. And so I think the more that you can pull that the earth is alive, the more that we understand to protect it. It's like water does not forget. There were huge, you know, the main settlement of Waimea was all down by the airport and stuff in the old days. There were a Y that came down, irrigation ditches, all through, and they all got filled in at the Ahuli place right across from Waimea School where the monument is to Count Tarawa. That used to be, that was just totally a Y in there. And they filled it up to grow millet and wheat, and guess what? Didn't work. So, you know, the more that you listen to these guys and everything, and you understand. But when you say that water has memory, all I think about is, you know, Manoa Valley, when they had that big flood, 20 years ago, and it flooded all of Hamilton Library and everything else, and everybody was like, oh, how did that happen? Oh, we have to put this up. What do you think Waikiki was? I mean, that was all kalo. It wasn't swamp. They knew, you know. And so when you look at Lani Mau where I mean, there was a huge flood in 1958. Really flooded all Hawaiian homes and everything. Yet we continue to go, oh, duh, let's concrete it over. look at the post office. We've got the Mamuku winds just whooshing through here. I mean, how many of you guys almost got killed going into the library? Post office. It was like, wow, you know, you're going, who didn't think to maybe turn it the other way? And so, or, excuse me if anybody's involved in this, but what are we doing building O'Uli farms in a desert area where our farmers up here don't have enough water? And we're gonna have swimming pools and golf courses. 15 golf courses. Golf courses take tons of water.
Yeah.
Thank you for bringing that up, because I've been sitting back here kind of thinking of a question, and I'm not trying to get it out right, but so you guys are all county council member, and county council deals with land use, right? And I'm particularly interested in using these historical stories, the Mo'olelo, the Oli, to formulate kapu kanawai land use policies for areas. Like, have you seen this? Do you have a strategy you think I could employ to create that integration? Right?
We should really good.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Heather. Appreciate that.
We'll pull in a few other people too, but we should talk.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you've got your sources right here, and
Yeah.
Rick's done a bunch of work too on the old trail systems and all the mo'olelo that go with that, so.
Yeah, we've been working on something with the mo'olelo from Waipu, right? And there's clearly behaviors that are described that are appropriate and that aren't. And so how do we employ that? I don't want to call it the Western legal context, but I think there's a way to integrate the two, to bring some of that back, right? In terms of how people behave in spaces and how people utilize land. I need help, so thank you.
No, absolutely.
I would like to say on behalf of the organizations here, pulling this together has been an absolutely wonderful day.
Yeah.
It has opened our eyes, and I hope we can do more of this.